Northern Renaissance, rediscovering the past, rebuilding the future. The future article, the Northern Renaissance television. The North is not merely a geographical expression, it is also a historical, cultural, economic, and political reality. Territorially, the old northern region constituted roughly two-thirds of Nigeria's landmass, making it the largest regional space in the Nigerian population. Geographically, northern Nigeria lies within the broad savanna belt of West Africa. For the core northern belt, it may be located approximately between latitude 9 degree north and 13 degree north, and longitude 3 degree east and 15 degree east. However, if we are speaking of the wider historical northern region, before the creation of states in 1967, its southern reach extends further into Niger-Benue Basin and the Middle Belt, making its practical extent broader than the core savanna zone. Nigeria as a whole lies between latitude 4 degree north and 14 degree north, and longitude 2 degree east and 15 degree east. And the north occupies the greater part of this inland territorial space. Ecologically, the northernmost part of the region falls within the Sahel savanna, while the greater portion lies within the Sudan savanna. Further south, especially around Niger-Benue belt and parts of the Middle Belt, the vegetation changes towards the Guinea savanna. There are also notable highland areas, such as the Jos Plateau and Mambela Plateau, where altitude creates a more temperate environment. These ecological zones have historically supported farming, livestock rearing, trade, and settlement. The valleys, river basins, and the Fadama lowlands remain especially important for dry season agriculture and food production. Yet, behind within this geographical advantage is a silent issue. The North possesses land, water bodies, livestock, and human population. But these resources have not been fully transformed into prosperity. The region holds one of the largest concentration of Nigeria's livestock and has vast agricultural resources. But poverty, insecurity, weak rural infrastructure, climate stress, desertification, and poor value chain development continue. The question, therefore, is not whether the North has resources. The real question is why these resources have not been organized into sustainable way. Historically and culturally, the North was home to many ancient state systems and civilizations. From the legendary Kwararafa to Igala, Nupe, the Hausa Bakwai, the Kanem Borno tradition, and later the vast political influence of the Sokoto Caliphate, the region was never an empty space waiting to be created by colonial rule. It had political institutions, commercial networks, Islamic scholarship, indigenous religions, craft industry, diplomacy, taxation systems, military organization, and long-distance trade connections. The North was also home to an extraordinary array of ethnic nationalities and cultures. These communities were involved in centuries of intergroup relations through trade, migration, intermarriage, scholarship, alliance building, conflict, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. This long history created both unity and diversity. The North is therefore not a single ethnic, religious, or cultural bloc. It is a complex historical formation made of Hausa, Fulani, Kanuri, Nupe, Ib, Chukun, Igala, Wari, Idoma, Ibra, Pachama, Chamba, Tengali, Ron, and many other people. This is another silent issue, but public discussion often speaks of the North as if it were one uniform political party. But the North contains many voices, identities, memories, grievances, and aspirations. Any genuine Northern Renaissance must therefore recognize both the shared destiny of the region and the rights, dignity, and historical experiences of all its people. The coming of the British colonial rule gave the North its modern administrative shape. For more than half a century, the region was administered under British authority, and colonial policies helped bring its diverse people into one political unit. The system of indirect rule, the native administration structure, taxation, provincial administration, railway development, and regional governance gave the North a new administrative identity. But colonial rule also left behind difficult legacies, uneven access to Western education, limited industrialization, if any, dependence on primary production, and political structure that continues sometimes to preserve hierarchy more than to promote mass empowerment. This point must be stated clearly. The British did not create the people, cultures, and history of the North, but they created much of the modern administrative framework through which the North came to operate as a single region. The peoples of the North existed before colonial rule. Colonialism only reconfigured them into a modern administrative region. The first generation of northern leaders understood this historical inheritance. They recognized that the North had to operate within the Nigerian Federation as a region, shared interests. They worked to protect northern unity, expand education, strengthen agriculture, build administrative capacity, and negotiate the region's place in national politics. Their project was not perfect, but also guided by a sense of responsibility, but it was guided by a sense of responsibility, regional consciousness, and collective destiny. Today, however, the North faces a new historical challenge. The old foundations of unity are now under pressure. Insecurity has displaced communities, weakened farming, disrupted trade, and deepened poverty. Climate change and desertification are intensifying pressure on land and water. Youth unemployment has created frustration and vulnerability. Educational backwardness continues to affect millions. Ethno-religious mistrust has weakened old bonds of coexistence. Political leadership often speaks in the language of unity, but fail to address the material conditions that make unity meaningful. Therefore, the Northern question is not simply a question of territory. It is a question of justice, development, security, education, cultural renewal, and responsible leadership. The North must rediscover its historical competence, not by romanticizing the past, but by using the lessons of the past to confront the failures of the present. A true Northern Renaissance must begin with honest self-examination. It must ask questions. Why a region so rich in land and resources remains poor in productivity, why a region so rich in history remains weak in documentation and cultural industry, why a region with such a young population had not turned its youth into skilled workforce, why livestock wealth has not produced more than dairy, meat, leather, and export industry, why agriculture remains largely traditional despite vast land and water resources, and why political unity has not always translated into social justice and human development. Northern Renaissance television is therefore founded on a clear mission to tell the story of the North truthfully, intelligently, and courageously. It will celebrate the region's history, culture, scholarship, agriculture, enterprise, and resilience. But it will also ask difficult questions about leadership, education, insecurity, poverty, climate change, women's participation, youth empowerment, intergroup relations, and the future of the Nigerian Federation. The North is a land of memory, movement, faith, labor, culture, and possibility. Its past was shaped by kingdom, scholars, traders, farmers, pastoralists, reformers, and community. Its future will therefore be shaped by knowledge, justice, enterprise, purity, and visionary leadership. This is the task before us. This is the meaning of Northern Renaissance.